pick is Army of Two, The Devil's Cartel. Now this game most likely won't even make my top 10 at the end of the year, but as of right now it's one of the most fun games I played in 2013. You play as a character named Alpha, and you have his partner named Bravo, and those two names should tell you everything you need to know about this game. It's all done very standard. The mechanics, the gunplay, the characters, it's all paint by numbers for shooters. But as I said, it is fun. I know core gamers aren't supposed to think shooters are fun anymore because there's so many of them out there, and there is a lot of them out there. But I like shooters. They're a lot of fun, running around, killing people, blowing shit up. Sometimes it doesn't get any better than that. Now, you don't play as Rios or Salem in this game like you did the last two games, but they are still there for the story. And I gotta say, what Visceral Games did with those two characters in this game took a lot of guts. And it makes it for an interesting story, somewhat, for the next game in the line. It makes me interested to see what they're gonna do from here on out. There's also tons of unlockables for this game. Outfits, masks, guns, and accessories to those guns. It all makes for tons of replay value, which is something awesome and a lot of games don't do anymore. There's also customizing of the mask. You can make all kinds of cool things with the mask, and if you play online you can see what other people make with their mask also. And if you want, you can pick up a few pointers from those people to see what they did, if you like what they did with their masks. Army of Two, The Devil's Cartel isn't good. It's okay at best, but it is a lot of fun. And really, sometimes that's all it takes for a game to be good. Just to be able to sit back, relax, and have a good time. My number 4 pick is another game published by that evil corporation, EA. Sorry, but I like EA. Always have, even when they sometimes make bad decisions. My number 4 pick is Dead Space 3. Once again, you take on the role as Isaac Clarke, unless you play co-op and you decide to play as Carver. Now, co-op is apparently supposed to be different from the single player version of the game, but what I've heard about it, because I haven't played co-op yet, is that it's basically the same thing unless you play as Carver, which in this case Carver, he's not been through this stuff before like Isaac Clarke has, so he's experienced all this crazy shit for the first time, and he sees a lot of crazy stuff going on, which can be fun for both players, being that the player playing as Isaac Clarke will just be killing bad guys, trying to protect Carver, while the player that's playing as Carver will be freaking out and seeing a bunch of dead toy soldiers and stuff like that, I guess. Again, I haven't played the co-op, so I'm not really sure on how that works. The story behind Dead Space is a confusing one, but it is very interesting nonetheless. I won't try to explain it here because I just don't have the time. Dead Space 3 does seem to take a page out of the Resident Evil book, more or less from Resident Evil 5 and now 6, as it is a little bit more of an action game and a little less on the scary side. However, it's still a really good game in the series. It's just not as good as the first two games in the series. For instance, in Dead Space 3, you spend a little bit of time in space, but not too much. Most of the time you're on this frozen Hoth type planet called Tail Volantis. There's nothing really too special about it, and it still has its scare factors while on that planet, but it's just something about it's missing. Something about being in space makes it much more scarier. I don't know, maybe I just watched Alien too many times. One of the major differences in Dead Space 3 is the ability to not only customize weapons, but you can build your own weapons from blueprints that you find throughout the game. This is really cool. Once again, I love customizations in video games. Being able to build your own weapon, there's just 1,000 different ideas that you can come up with. Most of them suck, but you can break down those weapons and reuse those parts to make better and cooler weapons. Another thing about Dead Space 3 being more action oriented than it is scary is that there's only one kind of ammo in this game, whereas the other two games, each weapon type had its own ammo. So now you're constantly never have to worry about running out of ammo for your weapons at all. That all being said, Dead Space 3 still has plenty of scares for the fans of the horror of the Dead Space series. It's just a little bit more on the action side, but I still love this series. It's one of my favorites, and I cannot wait for a Dead Space 4. My number 3 pick is Don't Starve. There isn't too much to say about this game. It's pretty simple. It's a point and click roguelike game. All you really have to do is survive. Now it's called Don't Starve, but surviving probably is the least of your worries, as there's creatures anywhere at any time that can kill you, especially at nighttime if you don't build a fire. And there's also the possibility of you going insane, which I found only to happen when you eat food that is going bad. I found that out the hard way. Although Don't Starve is a very simple game, it is very addicting. I found myself constantly playing it over and over and over again. Basically, you just want to see how many days you can survive before you get yourself killed in one form or fashion or another. I can barely make it 10 days, but there's people out there that lived over 100 days, which I just find bizarre and crazy. Of course, with me only being able to live up to 10 days, I had a hard enough time being able to just find some of the necessities that you need to continue on in the game, such as the beefalo. I never found any beefalo. I don't know what the deal is, but no matter how much searching I do, I can't find any of them. I do constantly try to set my goal for 100 days every time I turn this game on. It's just I never can get to that goal, or even anywhere close to it. But the game being so addicting, it constantly makes me want to keep trying to make it to day 100. It doesn't help that this game, once you die, that's it. You start all over again, and it makes it quite painful to replay again, especially when you start collecting a lot of stuff that you can use and then you lose it all. It makes it frustrating. But again, just something about it is so addicting to me. And all you're doing is pointing and clicking on different things like grass and trees and stuff like that to chop down, to pick berries, all that kind of stuff to survive. And of course, you can attack animals that try to attack you, and there's some animals that won't attack you and that can actually help you, such as the beefalo with their poop. That's the whole reason why you need beefalo, is poop. Don't Starve, for me, has come down to trying to pick up beefalo poop. That is why this is my number 3 pick. My number 2 pick is Tomb Raider. This is going to be blasphemy, I understand that, but this is my first Tomb Raider game. I've never played any of the other Tomb Raider games at all, but I gotta say, I absolutely love this game. I don't often like playing as women in video games, I guess simply because I'm not one. It's just something that doesn't appeal to me. But I gotta say, I really love playing as Lara Croft. Crystal Dynamics did a great job, in my opinion, on making her a very strong and independent woman, and I honestly like that a lot. It shows that women can be main characters in video games, and now I would like to see that more often in our video games. More female main protagonists. Now, I understand some people out there have been kind of upset with this new Tomb Raider revamp and how brutal the game is to Lara, especially in death scenes. But it has happened many times before in video games, like the Dead Space games and the last couple of Resident Evil games. And no one's ever had a problem with that happening to male protagonists in games, so there shouldn't be a problem with that happening to a female one now. Plus, this is the wilderness. Brutal things can happen in the wilderness, so it kind of makes it that much more realistic, in my opinion. Tomb Raider comes off as a little bit like Uncharted, but that's cool with me, because Uncharted games are really cool and really great, and if you're going to borrow from other games and do it right, I don't see a problem with it. This Tomb Raider game gave us Lara Croft's start, where she learned to love the adventure of raiding tombs, and I thought that was really amazing, and I think they did a great job with it. My number 1 pick is The Last of Us. I don't think there's anything I can say about this game that gives it the credit it deserves. Not only is this my number 1 game so far, but most likely this will be my number 1 game at the end of the year. Not only that, but it's probably one of the best games I've played in this generation of consoles. Sure, after a while in the game, the body count starts to stack up, but the majority of the time you're trying to stay out of sight and get yourself out of situations without any confrontations at all. Though, that being said, there are times that you are going to be killing a lot of people. I feel like Naughty Dog tried to go to great lengths to make the player feel the depth of the game. The characters are by far probably some of the most amazing ever. I would say that they go beyond just voice acting in video games to being the fact that not only do they wear the little ping pong balls over their face to act out everything, but just everything they bring to the table really shows that they're more than just phoning it in. And the story behind Last of Us is just simply amazing. The way it unfolds, the way that it comes to a conclusion, all of it. All this stuff comes together to make The Last of Us one of the best games ever. You can tell how much work the Naughty Dog put into making sure that you constantly felt like you were in the game, because there's nothing ever that's in your face. Picking stuff up, you can hardly see any icons on screen, or even like opening doors and things like that. It all just comes at you very seamlessly. Even when enemies start to see you, you don't see any kind of indication on the screen or anything like that. You will hear a slight change in the dramatic tone of the music in the background. And if you miss it, that's when the bad guys can see you and you have to fight your way out of a situation. Everything about The Last of Us wraps you up and doesn't let you go until you finish the game. And you will walk away from it thinking about this game, thinking about what happened, thinking about the characters, and thinking about if what you did was the right thing or not. And even though you don't have a choice on any kind of outcomes, it still will linger with you for a while. And that right there is what makes The Last of Us so great of a video game, is just the way that it just pulls you in. Again, The Last of Us is just the best game that I played so far, but
Is this
I
really
would
helping
argue that
everybody
this is the
out?
one of the best games I played in this
Movies,
generation of video games.
movies.